Welcome to this podcast brought to you by Growth Beyond Knowing, which explores ways for us to realize that we can achieve that which is beyond our own expectations. In fact, growth beyond knowing. I am Garth Brink, and my guest is Clinton Young. Now, Clinton is an award-winning international keynote speaker, and he's founder of the Speaker Posse and mentor for purpose-driven entrepreneurs and influencers. And he helps them grow their impact and their income by becoming world-class speakers. So Clinton, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to our discussion.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me, Garth.
So I'm quite intrigued, Clinton, because I met you during our masterclass with Alexander Inchbaum. So there I am, sitting at my computer. Alexander is there in his usual jovial self, and I'm seeing all these people on the computer, visualizing them, and they get to understand who they are and what they're doing, and then Clinton Young appears. Now this is interesting because, well, who is Clinton Young? Now I haven't heard of him. Now that perhaps is amiss of me not to have heard, because I am then told that he is an international keynote speaker, world class. And the thought went through my mind at that time, goodness me, is he going to analyze everything that I say and how I say it? Is he going to think, well, no, you really can't speak. So what is he doing here on this program? But I'm happy to say that slowly as we met and as we discussed things, that sort of fear of being analyzed by everything that I say slowly disappeared. And I've thoroughly enjoyed the discussion that we have had. So I really am grateful to you for being able to discuss with us some of the aspects. And I have three things that I would like to discuss and ask you. So just three. So the first basically is, what led you to launch on a career of international keynote speaking? And we all have ideas of who a keynote speaker is and what he should be like. And I have preconceived ideas, and that's a type of system one approach. And, particularly with so many other aspects that you were involved in, your background of over 20 years as a top leader in corporate and entrepreneurial positions, and experiences that range from director level corporate roles in recruiting, training, and development, and international business consulting. And you own businesses in direct sales and marketing, real estate. And then you switch to professional keynote speaking and training. Now that's quite a vast spectrum to get into that. So that is the first aspect that I'd like us to discuss, and you can tell me more about it. But then moving on to the second point, which is your masterpiece, and then you are writing a book at the moment, which is almost the same as I am involved in writing a book, which is really very interesting as one goes through it. And then thirdly, for those of us who want to become world-class speakers, and I'm not talking about being a keynote speaker. I've no desire to be a keynote speaker, and I think many of us also not no longer, but do not wish to be a keynote speaker, but we would like to be world-class speakers. And when we speak to audiences and to groups, we would like to have that ability to be world-class in what we do. So those are the three things I'd like to briefly discuss with you at this interview. So getting back to the first then, what launched you on the path of international keynote speaking and training?
Well, Dr. Brink, great question. And I love it. Love where this is going to go. So about 15 years ago, so this is 2000, let's see if my math is, how good my math is, 2008. So 12 years ago now, almost 13 years. We all know around the world, most of us know what happened in 2008, right? We had a financial collapse pretty much globally. There was a lot of challenges. There was a lot going on. I'm here in the US, obviously, and there was a lot of turmoil. And so I had just become an entrepreneur a few years prior to that. And had a mentor and was doing really well. First time I ever made 6 figures in my life and had all this freedom and flexibility. And, I had done some speaking, but I wasn't a professional speaker at that time. And I didn't really ever think that that was going to happen. And all of a sudden, 2008, my business, literally within 3 months, my business vanishes. It's gone. It just crumbles. My business is gone. My credit's gone. I lose my property, all in 3 months due to the financial collapse. And this is 6 months after I get married. So welcome to the team, honey, right? Luckily, we are still married, like 12 years later, almost 13 years later. And so I find myself at a microphone, similar to this microphone, no pop filter though, for the podcast, but I'm at a microphone and I'm in a seminar. So picture this, Garth. I'm in a room of about 200 people. I'm standing at the microphone and I am certainly not leading this seminar, okay, because I am lost. My confidence is shattered, absolutely shattered, as you can probably imagine. I'd experienced this fairly massive failure, right? Quote unquote, what most people would call failure. And I'm at the microphone and I'm speaking in front of 200 people sharing what's going on in my life. And the leader, his name is Chris, he looks right at me and he says, "Clinton, you're dead inside." And I was just like, ugh, it was like a stake to my heart. But you know what? He was absolutely correct. I was dead inside. I was glazed over. I was shattered. I did not know what to do. And it was in that moment, Garth, that I realized why I'd been so lost. I mean, there was the obvious reasons of, the quote unquote failure. I had bought some properties a few years prior to that really lent itself really well to when I stopped making as much money. I had negative cash flow. There was a lot going on. Okay, I won't get into the gory details, but ultimately, I really was having this challenging time. And that wasn't actually why I was shattered, though. Why I was shattered was because I had always led my life following what I like to call my intuition, right? A lot of people know what intuition is. If those of you out there listening or watching are a little unfamiliar, just so we're on the same page, what I mean by that is it's a sort of an internal knowingness versus a logical reasoning. It's more of just a knowing, like a feeling. And so I would feel this urge or this inspiration to go to Singapore, for example, when I was 21 years old, and follow a friend over there and travel all through Southeast Asia. And what that led me to was this massive burst of passion for culture. And that ultimately led me to grad school. So that's just one little example where I'd always followed this inspiration and things always worked out. I couldn't explain it. I didn't even know what intuition was at the time. I didn't really know what personal growth was at the time, but I just knew that when I felt something and I did it, it would generally work out, and usually even better than I thought it was going to work out. And why I was shattered at the microphone, Garth, was I realized that I felt like my intuition failed me when I bought those properties. I felt like my intuition failed me. And I was really proud of myself. Like, oh, I figured this out. I'm on my way up. I figured out why I feel this shattered confidence. And then 2 weeks later, I'm taking a walk in the woods and I'm doing one of my, what I like to call black sheep habits that I teach some of the people that I coach. And what I mean by that is just habits that some people aren't willing to do, especially in public, like meditation or visualization. And in this particular one where I'm walking in nature by myself, I call it contemplation. It's another one of my black sheep habits. And I'm contemplating and I'm just kind of, it's almost like a walking meditation where I'm really silent and just taking in the beauty of nature. And it hit me like a Mack truck right in my face, Garth. In that moment, it's 2 weeks after being at the microphone, I realized, oh my goodness, it wasn't my intuition that failed me. It was me that failed my intuition. You see, I realized in that moment walking in the woods that my intuition did tell me, Clinton, don't buy those properties. Clinton, these are the wrong people. It's the wrong time. You're not doing the right due diligence. You're doing this for the wrong reasons. And for whatever reason at that time in my life, I glossed over it and I went ahead. And so the reason why I was shattered so much is because my whole model of the world, the way that I moved through the world and following my intuition, I felt like I couldn't trust my intuition. And in that moment, I realized, oh my goodness, I couldn't trust myself because I failed my intuition. And man, that was really the beginning. I know it was a long-winded way of really starting to share why I became an international keynote speaker, but that was the beginning of it. And in that moment, I realized I needed to reignite my human spirit. I needed to reignite my human spirit. And that's the name of my keynote speech that I've been fortunate enough to deliver all around the world. And it's almost like that little pilot light under, I don't know if you call them that down in South Africa, but underneath the gas stoves, they got the little lights that are always on. Even when the stove's not on, the little pilot light's always on. And then you click the spark and it lights up the whole stove area. Well, my pilot light had virtually gone out and it was just flickering, and I needed to reignite my human spirit. And you know, the battle really just started there. That was the journey. That was the spiritual awakening. That was the deep inner knowing, the growth beyond knowing, as you like to call it. Hopefully I'm using that appropriately, but that's where really my fire started. And on that path, moving through my journey, I realized my purpose was to reignite the human spirit, not just my human spirit, but other people that have been going through similar challenges like the challenge that I went through. So that's how I started becoming an international keynote speaker. That was the beginning of it.
I can certainly identify with this because I think what happens to so many of us, it's that intuition, it's that sort of gut feel that this is what we should be doing. And it's only afterwards that we realize that, and I refer to this quite often as system 1 versus system 2 thinking, which Daniel Kahneman has talked about so much, is that the system 1 is those things where or decisions that we make just on the face of it.
Yeah.
And it's only on reflection, like you said, once you're going through the woods and we think about it and we reflect on that.
Yes.
And we realize, but hang on, we've actually missed the mark. We have not connected with an inner self, which actually might have put us on a different route, because at first thoughts, first impressions, it all seems to be so correct and so right. Yeah. And we ignore some of those telltale signs that sit there in the back of our minds to say, wait a minute, slow down, pause, reflect.
Yes.
And I think that this is such a wonderful way of saying connecting with one's inner self and igniting that human spirit, because that human spirit, I think, particularly now during COVID, in so many cases, seems to be flagging.
Yes.
So it's an important step, I believe, as you said, in terms of allowing us that personal growth. So this is it's a wonderful reflection on how one actually gets to a stage where one recognizes and realizes that this is really the way and my path that I'm going to follow.
Yeah.
So getting back then to our masterpiece course that we were doing or are doing with Alexander Inchbald, your masterpiece and also the book that you're currently writing. Can you explain us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. So I'll start with the book really quick. The book title is Reigniting Your Human Spirit. And it's really a self-leadership guide for people that are out to really growth seekers. It's a self-leadership guide for what I like to call growth seekers, right? And for those growth seekers who want to live their dream life right now. Like we actually can have the things that we want and be the things that we want and do all the things that we want, right? And so that's what my book is, and it's really a reflection on my journey and a lot more stories like the one I just shared of really how I came to have my purpose be revealed to me. And I'll share this really quick before I touch on my my masterpiece. People come up to me and ask me, how do I find my purpose? I want to find my purpose, because you probably agree there's a lot of people out there that are having more of sort of a spiritual awakening, that want more meaning in their life. They want more purpose in their life. It's not all just about making money and having success. No, it's about having meaning and purpose. And what I say to them, it stops them in their tracks, Garth. I say, if you're looking for your purpose, stop. I say, if you're looking for your purpose, stop. It will be waiting for you when you start doing the things that you love, right? It'll be waiting for you when you start doing the things that you love. And to illustrate a little bit around that, when I started speaking, and I wasn't even a professional speaker, but I knew that I felt good when I was in front of people, when I was out from a computer, or out from, I should say, doing like spreadsheets or doing work like that, and more in front of either a video camera or in front of people. And I would literally just put myself in opportunities where I could, I like to say, raise my vibration by being in a happy place, like doing things that I love, where I'm in my flow, where time flies by. Speaking of time, when you're in your flow, time flies by like so quickly, because you're just so in the flow. So I would literally, just to give an example, I would volunteer at my spiritual center to be the greeter, where I could be out in front and say hi to people, shaking hands, kissing babies, giving high fives, right? Welcoming people. Not that that was going to forward my career, right? But that put me in this higher vibration. That put me in this place of flow, where what my experience is, and my belief is when you put yourself in a extended times in your life, or opportunities in your life where you're in your flow, you start to see differently. You start to see the world differently. You start to see yourself differently, and opportunities start to arise. You start to attract opportunities. You start to attract connections. And that's exactly what I found as I continued to do that more and more and more. I became the director of talent acquisitions for a company, which is basically a fancy way of saying recruiting manager, and helped to build out this culture for this company. And what I did is I put myself in the opportunity where the role didn't say you had to speak, but I would volunteer at local colleges to go and speak and talk about the company where I was a recruiting manager, director of talent acquisitions. That put me in the flow. I could have recruited from my computer and put ads online and recruited that way, but no, I put myself in that situation, in an opportunity for me to be in my flow, what I like to call my flow, where again, time flies by, and you're adding value. You're adding more value when you're in your flow. It actually gives you energy instead of takes energy when you're in your flow. So that's what I would recommend to anybody when they're looking for their purpose. Stop looking for your purpose. Just do things that put you in your flow, and keep your eyes open, keep your senses open, and you will notice things start to be revealed to you. So I know I went off on a tangent there a little bit, but I'm going to bring it back to your question about the masterpiece. So the masterpiece is really helping other purpose-driven entrepreneurs and influencers like myself, like people that have this desire for purpose, this desire for meaning, and they're entrepreneurial by nature, and they want to make a difference in the world. I help these purpose-driven entrepreneurs and influencers grow their impact and their influence and their income by using my world-class speaker blueprint. And I really help them become a world-class speaker. And I know you're probably going to ask me, well, what do you mean by world-class? Because like you said earlier, I don't necessarily mean a professional keynote speaker where that's your number one business. You go out and you speak and you get paid. I don't mean that. I can help people do that if that's what they want to do. And I don't mean you're going to speak all around the world and get paid $10,000 per speech every time you speak. I can help you do that as well, but that's not what I mean by world-class. What I mean by world-class, and this speaks to my psychology background, it's my belief and it's my experience that there is this barrier, if you will, this barrier that's blocking us as speakers, and it's right in between us as speakers and our audience. And it's this invisible barrier that is there and a lot of times in the subconscious mind. It's there, and it stops us from being fully connected from our audience. And it's just there. It's just there when you go out and speak with anybody. And becoming world-class is learning how to identify, and then learning how to dissolve and release and dissolve that barrier so that you speak directly from your heart, authentically, congruent, vulnerably, with world-class precision in how you communicate, and you speak directly to the heart and to the soul of your audience. I'm not trying to get all ushy-gushy on your airy-fairy here, but when you speak directly to the soul of somebody, you know that happens because a lot of times you'll get the chills, you'll like get the tingles, if you will, and that's when you know somebody's speaking to your soul. That's your intuition speaking to you. In my belief, that's your intuition. And that is the only way, as purpose-driven entrepreneurs, that we're truly able to really make the level of impact that we're out to make, is by becoming a world-class speaker. Because when you speak to someone's heart and someone's soul, it automatically speaks to their mind. It automatically speaks to their brain. That's the doorway to impact.
I can certainly identify with this, because one of the conferences that I was involved in, we always get a keynote speaker, and we got this keynote speaker, Jodie Rist, I think was her name, and she held the delegates spellbound because of the way in which she told her story. She connected, she broke down barriers.
Yeah.
And it was her narrative of motorcycling around Africa as a woman. And this really inspired people. You could hear a pin drop in that audience. And I think breaking down those barriers is extremely important. And I can identify with that so much, because in times where I have spoken, and I unfortunately have to, not have to, but I do lecture and I do presentations, you can see the disinterest that there is. And I sort of think, well, I need to sort of just bail out and forget about it. And it actually is because I'm not really breaking down the barrier to make that person interested in listening or trying to be part of what I'm trying to say. And I think that this is wonderful for us. So having talked about this, so how and what suggestions can you make, or advice can you give, or tips that you might have for us who would want to be the world-class speaker, as you've outlined? How would we start going about it?
I've got one main thing that you can do immediately, and three steps to actually achieve that. If you think about, I'm going to use a guy from the US. Most people will know who he is. He's an Olympian. His name is Michael Phelps. He was in the Olympics, the last several Olympics, and I think the last Olympics, he won like 11 or something medals. He's won 28 medals total in the Olympics. 23 are gold. He's the most prolific, most decorated Olympian of all time. So whether you like him or not, let's just use him as an example. The only thing that separates him from other people, he could have a twin with the same exact genetic makeup, same exact musculature and everything. They get in the pool. The thing that separates him from his brother, his twin, if he had one, is his level of awareness. And I want anyone listening to write this down. Your level of awareness. If you think about the basic building block, the basic unit of measure, if you will, of what separates him from anyone else, it's his level of awareness, his depth of awareness around his, let's say, his body, his muscles, his training, his actual skill, his being in the water, right? The way he jumps off the edge of the pool, every stroke, everything he does, there's a deepened level of awareness. So if we use that model of an Olympic athlete, and we want to make a difference so bad that it hurts, like those are the kinds of people that I typically work with, people that want to make a difference so dang bad that it hurts in a good way, right? And they're so committed to having a purpose-filled life and having an impact in the world. Well, in order to do that, we have to follow the way of an Olympic athlete. We have to deepen our level of awareness as a communicator, right? There's so much that I teach inside of my coaching around psychology, around human design, around culture, around personality, all of these around sales and negotiation and influence, all of these things all intertwine to give you the tools to be able to be in your body, be in your heart, speak with vulnerability, speak with authenticity, speak with world-class precision, and be able to dissolve that invisible barrier that I talked about. So how do we do that? How do we deepen our level of awareness? I'm going to give you 3 main things. How many am I going to give you, Garth? 3. Yes, 3 things right now. And I would write these down, all the listeners out there, because this is how we can accelerate our path to becoming world-class. There's 3 main things we can do. So you cannot skip steps. That's the bad news to becoming world-class. But you can accelerate your path or your journey. So the first thing is you need to get massive repetitions on stage or in front of a video. It doesn't mean they have to be paid. It doesn't mean there has to be 1,000 people in the audience. You could literally be talking in your bathroom to your mirror, and that could be what's called a repetition. Liken this to a gymnasium, right? You go into the gym or a workout facility and you do your repetitions, you do your curls. That's what I'm talking about. You get on stage, you get on podcasts, you get on Zoom meetings, and you speak. You cannot become a world-class speaker by watching a video or reading a book or even getting 1 coaching session. You have to actually speak. Just like you can't watch a video on working out and lose weight or build muscle. It's the same concept. So why would it be any different? If we want to make a difference so bad it hurts, we want to make this massive impact, we have to think like an Olympian. So we got to get in the gym, we got to get on stages and help you do that if you're challenged by doing that. So that's the first thing, we got to get repetitions. So the second thing we need to do is think again like an Olympian or a footballer, right? Someone playing soccer or football or American football, either way. What do they do after the game? What do they do before the game? They watch game film. They watch the game on video. They literally watch themselves and they rewind and they watch and they look intensely and they focus in, they zoom in and they look at the reaction of the other team when they make a move. How did it work when they made that move? How did the team respond? We need to do the same thing as not professionals, as world-class speakers. Again, it doesn't mean that's your main business. But when you want to make an impact, you have to become a world-class communicator. So we've got to watch ourselves. Every time we speak, video record it and watch the game tape. Because you're gonna deepen your level of awareness when you watch yourself tell that story or tell that joke or do that intro or do that close, and you're gonna see how the audience responds. That's gonna deepen your level of awareness, okay? So we've got repetitions, we've got watch the game tape, number 2. Number 3, we've got to have a coach or a mentor that is world-class already. We have to have somebody that can also watch your tape and watch you speak live, that just like a professional football player or a professional or an Olympic swimmer, they need to have a coach that can say, hey, you know what, when you were doing this, I noticed that this happened. Try this, right? They're going to see things that you just will not see. I don't care how many times you watch that game tape. You're just not going to see it because you don't have the same level of awareness. You're looking through a totally different lens, right? So we have to have a coach. We have to have a mentor that can also watch that game tape. When we go out and get repetitions, and when we have that coach and we're videotaping every single time, we get the repetitions and then we elevate up, right? We elevate up. And now we get guidance. We get guidance, and then we make the corrections. And then we go back down, we do repetition, and we get more guidance, and we make corrections. We go back down. So we're going up a pyramid here to move towards world class. And much the same, what's happening with us is that we're deepening our level of awareness, and then we have the courage to actually implement, because our coach is telling us, try this. We go out and do that. And now we develop more confidence. We get higher and higher along that pyramid and closer to world class, but we're still not world class yet. Now we have just a deepened level of awareness. So go back down to the bottom, deepened level of awareness at a higher level. And then we have more courage to go out and implement, and we have more confidence. And we just keep going on that path of awareness, courage, confidence, awareness, courage, confidence, repetition, guidance, correction, repetition, guidance, correction. And as we do that, we accelerate on the path to becoming a world-class speaker, a world-class communicator, somebody who can make the impact that you were born to make. That's how we become world-class.
I think taking it a step further, and these are great ways of actually doing that, because it not only affects one in terms of being a world-class speaker, but it also affects one in one's own interpersonal relationships and connecting with others. So it's not just in speaking, but it's going to be in everyday life, because doing that, you create a greater awareness of oneself. You create a greater awareness of those around you.
Yeah.
So you actually interact with them in a better way. You break down those barriers.
Yeah.
And you then share, and you get input on that sharing as well, which then also lifts oneself, and it creates, you actually grow beyond that which you really anticipated that one could grow. So that's really wonderful, and thank you so much for sharing that. And where can we find all these little tips or guides that you might have, or people can connect with you?
Thank you for asking, Garth. So people can definitely find me on my main website, and you can see me speak at clintonyoung.com, CLINTONYOUNG.com. But what I want to give everybody today, I want to give everybody a gift. And that gift is 7 principles that took me a decade to learn and over $250,000 invested. And I want to give all 7 of these principles. I call them my world-class speaker secrets, okay? Because these are the secrets that when you implement these secrets, you will start to see a massive difference in your reactions of your audience, in how you feel on stage or in front of the camera, and in terms of the results, most importantly. Are you inspiring action? Are you inspiring the action that you want to inspire? And just to give you an idea, just one of these principles, just one of these secrets, I invested over $5,000 just to learn one of these, just one of these, to one of my mentors. He's a world-class speaker, a National Speakers Association Hall of Fame speaker. He's spoken all around the world, really literally thousands of times. And that one secret has earned me tens of thousands of dollars as I've mastered it. But more importantly, it's allowed me to become a world-class speaker and move closer and closer up that level of world-class. So I want to give all 7 of those, and there's actually a bonus number 8 as well, to all of your viewers, all of your listeners for free. How does that sound, Garth?
It's wonderful, and it really will, I think, inspire all of us to look and see how we can start going along the route of actually improving ourselves in terms of speaking, but also our own inner self, realizing our potential.
Yes.
That it's not only, as I've said, speaking to an audience, but the way in which we interact with other people. It creates a greater awareness of ourselves, and we learn through it.
100%.
So, Clinton, just thank you very much for sharing all this with us.
So let me share where to get them, because I didn't share where to get them yet. I didn't actually give the website. So let me do that first. So you can get those top 7 world-class speaker secrets by going to worldclassspeakersecrets.com. Just like it sounds, worldclassspeakersecrets.com. Grab those today. And for those of you who are really, really serious about becoming world-class, like you have this desire so big in your heart to make an impact in the world, and you know that speaking is part of that journey, then on the page after you're able to download those, there's going to be a very short video about a minute long from me that welcomes you to my community, and it's going to give you an opportunity to schedule a free 30-minute world-class speaker blueprint call with me for free. I charge a lot of money for these calls, and I'm going to give you a 30-minute blueprint session where we'll walk through a simple blueprint for you to accelerate your path. And of course, you know, some of you will want to work with me one-on-one or in my group program. Some of you will just want to have that free 30-minute session. But I encourage you to do that if you are really, really serious and you want to make an impact in the world. So Garth, thank you so much for allowing me to contribute to your audience as well. And I would love to leave everybody with my 6-word story, if that's okay. And then I'll bring it back to you. So I'm huge on storytelling. And my 6-word story that really encompasses a lot of what I believe in and what I speak about are these 6 words. Think big, say yes, and take action. Think big, say yes, and take action. Thank you, Garth, so much for having me on your show. Back to you, my friend.
Thank you so much. And no doubt we will think big, we will say yes, and we will take action. And thank you for sharing that with us and all your knowledge and expertise that has got you to where you are and developing and growing one's potential and also to reignite the human spirit. And I hope that at some stage we can actually do a follow-up and just see how things are developing and certainly look at some other aspects that I think are common to what both you and I wish to achieve. So thank you very much for being with us and wish you well with the writing of your book. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.